All right. I was looking at the two that were impeached back in the day. Andrew Johnson was impeached right after the Civil War because of Reconstruction issues. But he was acquitted. Okay, there was another impeachment, Jay Clinton or something like that. He was impeached, but he was acquitted. Um, there's been Nixon. Now, Nixon got into trouble. Um, I might make this one kind of a post, but Nixon got into a lot of trouble. And we know that Watergate, I guess he was behind Watergate, which was a conspiracy. My friend Matthew almost is a playwright in New York, Brooklyn, and he's writing about all this going down right now. A play about Watergate, and I believe it's about the White House and things like that. So I think Matthew's play might be a hit. Matthew, hey, if you need me, man, JonathanColeSpivey at gmail.com. I'm obsessed with this stuff. So Trump is facing impeachment. And I just want to make something clear. When I was going through the separation with Angel, and I flipped out, and I think I just got mad at everybody. I think I blamed Mark Zuckerberg. I blamed everyone but myself for the separation. I guess I kind of got mad at Trump, and I think I mentioned something about impeachment. I wish I could take that back because um, I'm trying to figure out. First, I'm gonna look at Nixon. Well, let me look at Jay Clinton impeachment because I'm trying to figure out this abuse of power because I'm not clear on what exactly is going on. I know Zuckerberg had to face trial, and I wasn't real clear about that. And Zuckerberg said some stuff about Facebook being a company about being an ideology, like a company of ideals, or he wanted Facebook to be a company of, I think he said ideology, or an ideal company, a company of ideas. Oh, that's right. Bill Clinton faced impeachment. Clinton was impeached by the House of Representatives on December 19th, 1980, on grounds of perjury to a grand jury and an obstruction of justice. I believe he was acquitted. So this stuff happens. I thought it was only three. Oh, is that what they said? Jay Clinton? Bill Clinton is what I thought he went by. Let me look. Let me look. Three presidents impeached. Okay, let me look at some stuff. So, how many presidents were impeached? The House of Representatives impeached. Well, they impeached 19 federal officers. 15 were federal judges. 13 district court judges. One court of appeals judge who also sat on the Commerce Court, and one Supreme Court associate justice. Two were presidents. Okay, so two were Andrew Johnson and Bill Clinton. Oh wow, those were the only two. And when I was looking at Andrew Johnson, they were talking about the Civil War. So it's interesting. The impeachment of Andrew Johnson was initiated February 24th, 1868, when the United States House of Representatives resolved to impeach Andrew Johnson, 17th President of the United States, for high crimes and misdemeanors, which were detailed in 11 articles of impeachment. And February 24th, 1868 is when the impeachment went down. He was acquitted. So was Bill Clinton. This had to do with This had to do with the Tenure of Office Act passed by Congress in March 1867 over his veto. Specifically, he had removed from office Edwin M. Stanton, the Secretary of War, right after the Civil War, during Reconstruction after the Civil War, whom the act was largely designed to protect. It's interesting because I've been thinking about the Civil War, and I have a really good Civil War story called The Bunnymen. And I'm in pre-production for a film right now. The lead protagonist in the film is called the Bunnyman, but it's set in the mid 90s in this woman's head, even though we're seeing the film take place now. That's why I removed all smartphones in the film. So when you see the film, you won't see a smartphone. I'm going to do my very best not to show a smartphone in the film. It's supposed to be kind of somewhat, in a way, set in the mid 90s in this woman's head, but it's actually going on right now. It's a weird concept. I don't know if a lot of films have done it. It's like the whole film is an anachronism for 1995 and 96. Now the reason I'm bringing in the Bunny Man is because I've come up with this idea. I know I've made crazy statements about Margaret Mitchell being my great grandmother, and Margaret Mitchell was my great grandmother. So those are actually true. Margaret Mitchell was. So I've been reading a little bit of Gone with the Wind, and Bunnyman was an idea I had come up with about the Civil War, and I'm not really worried about the whole impeachment with Trump. I mean, I did mention something. I feel bad now, so I'm going back. I'm not saying that I'm not saying I'm a big Trump supporter, and I'm not saying that I'm not a Trump supporter. So I just have to sit on the fence with Trump because of some other stories that I've chosen to write about and other ideas I've chosen to write about. I can't really take Democrats or Republicans' side. Sorry. So I have to sit on the fence on it, and I feel really bad. I'm kind of a fence sitter. But I have to say that I'm about to watch some articles about what Trump's going through, and this is going to bring a different level to Trump, okay? And what I mean by a different level is now he's a president just like Clinton, which Clinton was a Democrat. And I think Clinton deserved his impeachment, and luckily he was acquitted. But I have to start studying this stuff about abuse of power. And I'm not a big believer about the Russians coming in and doing all this stuff with voting. I just don't buy it. I don't buy it. I think I mentioned something, I remember now, about how the Russians have maybe came in, because I'm a conspiracy theory person. I even have crazy ideas about 9/11 and stuff. But how the Russians had come in and they were voting with like illegal documents and stuff like that. I don't know for sure if those are really sane ideas. I think ever since my wife separated from me, I'd gone into conspiracy theories more than what I really should. And I don't know for sure if any of that's true. I just don't see how it could be true. There's a lot of conspiracy theories that I go through in my head that I just don't think is true. Sometimes I think Lee Harvey Oswald shot JFK. Sometimes I think it was the Cubans. Sometimes I think it was the mafia. Sometimes I think it was the CIA, or a combination of all three. And then sometimes I just think it's Lee Harvey Oswald. So conspiracy theories is what probably, I don't know if they're going to lead to that craziness. And say, Trump got the Russians to help him, blah, blah. I don't know. I'm a big thing about physical proof. And the reason I think Nixon resigned is because they had physical proof against Nixon. They had these people that were working for somebody. They weren't doing it on their own. The Watergate scandal, which is what I'm going to pull up here right now. So when we're dealing with Richard Nixon and the Watergate scandal, it's a major federal political scandal in the United States involving the administration of President Richard Nixon from 1972 to 1974. So it happened over 2 years. The scandal stemmed from June 17th, 1972, break-in of the Democratic National Committee, DNC, headquarters in Watergate office building in Washington, D.C., by 5 men, and the Nixon's administration's subsequent attempts to cover up its involvement in the crime. Soon after the men were arrested, the press, so the men were arrested. There's some proof. We don't have that with Trump. The press and the U.S. Justice Department discovered a connection between cash found on them at the time. They had the cash on them at the time, which was really stupid on their end, and a slush fund used by the Nixon re-election campaign. Okay. So there was traces of money, and we could follow those traces. It led to Nixon. Nixon knew he was in trouble. He knew he was in trouble, and he resigned. Okay. So these next steps, what happens to Trump, will kind of show us whether or not he is guilty. So if he faces trial, they're going to have some type of physical proof. That's what I say. And if they have some type of physical proof already and they shows to him, of course he's going to resign. I don't see any physical proof of any of this stuff about the Russians and stuff. Also, I also wrote a play called Russian Butterfly. So I know there is scandals going on in Russia. I know that for a fact. I'm a writer and an actor and a performer and a musician and filmmaker. But I know for a fact that there is stuff going down in Russia that's not good. I know for a fact. I have physical proof. So I know there's scandals going on. And one of them is with these women that are going over the internet and trying to scam hurt men, pretending like they're in love with them and they need help to get to America. Okay, this is what they call it's what Russian Butterfly is about, the play, which you can find on my SoundCloud, on Cole Spivey's SoundCloud. It's actually, the play is called Russian, like rushing around, better, like being better, and fly. So it's called the scandal that they did. I think it started in 2000, or it was really heavy in 2011, 2012. I believe it was called the Visa tourist scandal. So they needed a visa to tour America. So they needed this money. So it was a great pitch. Me being a telemarketer over a period of 4 years, you need a good pitch. And these crazy Russian women, probably led by scam artists, maybe even some men, you could use this great language and this great dialogue to sucker these men in to give them money, to see if this visa touring scan would work and they'd be able to get here, which is it could be. Listen, I'm in the middle of the road of even if that's a scam or not, really. According to New York Times, it is a scam. But these women could be actually being stopped at customs, and the custom people going, give me $2,700 or I won't let you through, because they know they can get money out of American men. So I know that Russia's got some problems. I know that for a fact. But do I think that they could get that many voters, fake voters over here? I just don't see how that could possibly be possible without major proof. You'd have to go through all the flights coming out of Russia, see if you have a crazy amount of people coming over from Russia during voting season. There's no way to rig it. I don't know the abuse of power. So I know that needs to be studied. But anyway, I'm looking at other impeachments. And the Watergate scandal was something that Nixon knew that he was guilty and he resigned. So this is kind of like, what is Trump going to do post? What's he going to do? Is he going to get scared and resign? Or is he going to be brave and face the impeachment? Well, ideal for voters that are out there that are supporters, they're going to say, well, face it. Stick with the game. So Donald Trump, abuse of power. So we're going to see. So, okay, here is the same. So it's almost the same thing as what went on with Nixon. Obstruction of Congress is this one. I think with Nixon, it was obstruction with justice, abuse of power and obstruction with justice. He was swindling, or really what Nixon was doing was he was using money wrong. So he's using the money wrong to spy on the Democrats. That's not what our money needs to go to. We don't need to support Nixon to spy on anybody. So we have to find the money flow and see where the proof is to even throw anything at him. We need physical proof. So the House of Representatives on Wednesday is saying that they impeached President Trump, which they did, for abuse of power and obstruction of Congress, making him the third president in history to be charged with committing high crimes and misdemeanors and face removal by the Senate. On a day of constitutional consequence and raging partisan tension, the votes on the two articles of impeachment fell largely along party lines after a bitter debate, that stretched into the evening and reflected the deep polarization gripping American politics in the Trump era. Only 2 Democrats opposed the article on abuse of power, which accused Mr. Trump of corruptly using the levers of government to solicit election assistance from Ukraine. Okay, in the form of investigation to discredit his Democratic political rivals, almost exactly like what Nixon did. Republicans were united in opposition. We have no proof of this. It passed 230 to 197. They wanted it investigated. This is more of an investigation, I think, than impeachment. So with Speaker Nancy Pelosi gaveling the vote, and that lady, like, I hope she gets enough to eat for Christmas, because that lady looks pretty mean. I'm sorry, but she needs to grow up and realize that a woman does not need to be throwing around that gavel. Seriously, she's like a junior high kid throwing around the gavel and at any man. Because I think what's going on in this country too is an abuse of power on women's side. And that's going on. And this what I'm talking about is going to be investigated further. Okay? Everything that I'm posting right here about me is being investigated further with people that I know. Okay? So if you know me, you are being investigated. Okay? You will be investigated too. But I'm not trying to scare you. I'm letting you know. This is fair warning. But Nancy Pelosi, I think her life needs to be investigated as well. I can just tell by listening to some of the interviews with Trump she's bullying Trump big time. And Trump is trying to be nice to her. And in the interview that I saw, he was trying to be a nice guy, and she's just not backing down. So my prayers are out to you, Nancy Pelosi, just to be a nicer person, okay? Gaveling the vote to close from the House rostrum. On the second charge, obstruction of Congress, the 3rd Democrat joined Republicans in opposition. The vote was 229 to 198. The impeachment vote sets the stage for historical trials beginning early next year in the Senate, which will have final say 10 months before Mr. Trump faces re-election on whether to acquit the 45th president or convict and remove him from office. We need physical proof before we do that. The timing was uncertain after Pelosi suggested late Wednesday that she might wait to send the articles to Senate. So I think we need to investigate Miss Pelosi. Because I think Miss Pelosi, I think she has gone a little too far. We need to hold on to this country, not only as citizens, but as men, as leaders. And we need to realize that the female species can sometimes get a little bit out of control, holding them out of as leverage in negotiation on the terms of the trial. So I have a feeling that she's behind some of this for some reason. There's something saying acquittal in the Republican-controlled chamber may be likely, but the proceeding is certain to further aggravated the political and cultural fault lines in the country that Mr. Trump's presidency has brought into dramatic relief. Regardless of the outcome, the impeachment votes in the House put an indelible stain on Mr. Trump's presidency that cannot be wiped from the public consciousness with a barrage of tweets and an angry tirade. In front, if I was Trump, I would just back away from the tweets. I'm telling you, as a man, when I've gone through my separation, I have learned to stay away from Facebook. I don't tweet really at all, but I've learned to calm down on my emotional reactions to social media. There's an angry tirade in front of thousands of his cheering supporters at a campaign rally. My suggestion to Trump is just be kind. There's no law against kindness. There's no law against kindness. So if you're just kind, there will be no law against that kindness, okay? So we can use this as a moment. I mean, listen, Bill Clinton, being a Democrat, did not save him when he faced impeachment. Bill Clinton, I remember this even in high school, what he did was pretty dang evil. And we know what he did. Men do this kind of stuff. But we have to realize this, that I don't know what was going down with him and Hillary, but whatever happened. And also, I'm clapping for Hillary for even staying with the man. But with Bill Clinton's impeachment, that was because he lied. And, this kind of makes me think about, I pointed my finger at some rich people in church. And it's not that I was mad at them for being rich. I was mad because they didn't want to share, and I had to take the hit for it, and I'm taking the hit for it. And they don't have to share. I'm not going to force them to share. Matter of fact, I don't want them to share. Just keep it to yourself. But I asked them to share because I wrote this little script. It was a faith-based script that was based on Alex Kendrick screenplay, and they just said to me, "No, we don't want to help you. Grow up." Okay, that's just basically share. We don't want you to have any joy, Cole Spivey. Grow up and be miserable. And I was miserable at a bank for like 6 years, very miserable. Anyway, over the course of the last 3 months, we have found incontrovertible, incontrovertible evidence that President Trump abused his power. Hang on for a minute. I got it. Someone is a good writer. There we go. Vertible. Okay. I'm looking at this for a second. Not able to be denied or disputed.
Incontrovertible.
Okay, incontrovertible. We have found an incontrovertible evidence. This is New York Times. I'm just looking. I don't think it's New York Times. It's something. I think it's Google News or something. I'm looking at it right now. Nicholas Fandis and Michael D. Shear published this. I don't even know what site this is. New York Times. It's New York Times. Okay. Don't use that word if you're a reporter. Come on. Another thing, too, don't use that word during impeachment. I don't think we can say that word right now. We have found incontrovertible evidence. No, that's not true. We can't lie. Listen, as Americans, we can't lie. We don't have sound proof of any of this evidence. We had sound proof of Richard Nixon's evidence. We had sound proof. We had the tape recordings. We had the men that were paid. We had them in custody. We had them handcuffed in custody, okay? We don't have evidence. So don't say this. This is selling papers. My hat's off to Trump on this because he's got my full attention, and this is the only time in his entire presidency that I'm completely engaged trying to figure out every single move. So the pressure here is the newly elected president of Ukraine to announce an investigation into President Trump's political rival. So it's evidence that President Trump abused his power by pressuring the newly elected president of Ukraine. What evidence do we have that he pressured him? This seems kind of a little absurd.